Imagine a station where you access information. Think of a station that creates awareness for national development. Imagine a station that prepares you for a bright and greater future. A station for all ages. Documentaries, classroom and television, events coverage, children's programs and variety shows. Always stay tuned to NTA Knowledge on the StarTimes platform, channel 359. For partnership, sponsorship and advert placements, contact.
President Muhammadu Buhari grants audience to former head of state General Yakubu Gowon, set to launch economic recovery and growth plan today.
"81 Nigerian young entrepreneurs benefit from federal government World Bank grant for startup of their businesses."
House of Representatives passes for second reading a bill for an act to establish the forensic DNA database in Nigeria.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, our focus is on Nigerian innovators.
Now, technology has been the backbone of economic and infrastructural development in many countries around the world. And in Nigeria, various administrations since independence have shown interest, of course, in the increasing appreciation of the role of science and technology in the national, social and economic development of Nigeria.
All right, now the science, technology and innovation policy has gone through reviews since 1986 when the policy was first produced. Now, in 2012, the policy, a new one, was approved as a national guide and platform for collaboration between federal and state ministries and their agencies towards synergizing and promoting the application of science, technology and innovation results in all sectors of the economy.
And indeed, several scientific and technological innovations have been recorded, which has put Nigeria on the map of innovations. At this year's Science Expo, local talent of innovators and inventors were showcased to demonstrate the country's capacity in modern technology.
All right. Now, of course, as you just indicated, Rhoda, we say the Minister of Science and Technology, that's Chief Ogbonnaya Onu, said that the expo is targeted at recent findings that are desirable and have reached a level where their intellectual property is protected but have not been developed and put on the market, noting that investors will have the opportunity to access new ways of investing in science and tech.
And now a report by the United Nations, that's the Educational and Scientific Cultural Report towards 2030, that's the UNESCO report. An overview of the global trends indicates that most African countries are convinced that STI can help them to foster more inclusive growth and sustainable development in the years to come.
Now, the UNESCO report also urges Nigeria to look inwards by harnessing the immense talents in the country and committing more funds into research and development so as to grow the science, technology and innovation sector of the economy.
And of course, we know that funding is always a critical in developing science and technology.
Right.
And therefore, the question we're trying to look at this morning is how can this be addressed? Also, what is being done to commercialize the innovations? These are the talking points on the program today as we latch on the 2017 Science Expo to again look at how STI can be used to transform the economy. And that's how we say welcome to Good Morning Nigeria today. And we are live on Africa's largest TV network, the NTA. I'm Rhoda Obo, and once again, you're welcome.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I joined Rhoda to welcome you. In the course of the program, we shall also bring to you our companion segments, which include newspaper review, business, sports, foreign, entertainment news, and weather outlook for the rest of the day. For now, we'll join Lydia Bassey for the day's news. Good morning, Lydia.
Good morning, Kingsley. Good morning, Nigeria. In furtherance of the current administration's drive to sustain and build on the successes so far recorded in tackling corruption, improving security, and revamping the economy, President Muhammadu Buhari will formally launch the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, ERGP, 2017 to 2020 today. A statement by Special Advisor to the President of Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, says the ceremony will take place in the council chambers of the Presidential Villa, Abuja, at 11 o'clock this morning. The medium-term ERGP, which had earlier been approved by the Federal Executive Council, has amongst its broad strategic objectives restoring sustainable, accelerated, inclusive growth and development, investing in the people, and building a globally competitive economy. President Muhammadu Buhari has granted audience to the former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon. Messages of appreciation, goodwill, support, and encouragement were delivered to the Nigerian leader during the visit.
Today is to come and welcome Mr. President back, and then to encourage him to continue to do his work the best to his best of his ability, dealing with all the problems, and day in, day out you read in the press, of course, all sort of things happening. We hope God will give him the continued strength and energy to be able to deal with the problems of the country for the good of Nigerians.
More than 700 million naira was disbursed as grant by the federal government in conjunction with the World Bank to assist 81 young Nigerian entrepreneurs in their startup projects. At the grant signing ceremony in Abuja, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo expressed the confidence of the Buhari presidency in the ability of Nigerians to develop the country through technological innovations.
In the 2016 and 2017 budgets, we have provided for investments in technology hubs across the country. We'll be encouraging innovators to design technology for government and governance, for agriculture, infrastructure, healthcare, and other social services. The scope is huge. We are confident that the capacity of our innovators is limitless.
Now, health matters. The Senate has advised Federal Ministry of Health and its agencies to work closely with the World Health Organization with a view to acquiring sufficient vaccines needed to respond to the outbreak of meningitis in the country. The advice followed a motion moved by Senator Gbenga Ashafa on the need to curb the spread and stop further deaths associated with meningitis.
Nigerian Center for Disease Control has confirmed the outbreak of cerebrospinal meningitis, CSM, in 5 states with at least 282 deaths.
My constituents are victims of this particular outbreak, and there are cases of death reported.
The federal government required $1.1 billion to be able to procure these vaccines for this meningitis.
How do we look into the possibility of establishing quick industries that will produce vaccines, and other medicines that are required for this kind of emergencies.
We are used to that particular strain, that is the serotype A. But unfortunately, this time we have a serotype C, and we have just very few doses of that vaccine available.
We all know meningitis is a very deadly disease, and it's something that we need prompt response. I must commend the federal government for its massive awareness and quick intervention.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has passed for second reading a bill for an act to establish the forensic DNA database in Nigeria, charged with the responsibility of collection and analysis of DNA profile of criminal suspects.
Interrogation room or other investigating agencies in Nigeria and hear the ways and see the ways we try to extract confessions from criminals and not so criminals. You will find out that we miss a lot.
Everywhere in the world, DNA profiling has been used ostensibly to find solutions to sexual cases, sexual offenses cases, and of course to murder cases.
We must find a way of strengthening those relevant bodies that will be involved in gathering information and data before we can use a DNA test.
Terrorists commit their mass murder in the name of terrorism and then go scot-free because of lack of reliable DNA database.
With DNA, we'll be able to establish clearly that this person committed this crime so many years ago.
The federal government has recently challenged local fabricators to come up with locally fabricated agricultural equipment to promote indigenous technology products. Exhibited at the ongoing Technology and Innovation Expo in Abuja indicates that the fabricators are proving their mettle in the field of agriculture.
You know, something that otherwise would have gotten like 15 people working on my farm to do. And you can also do transportation, you can do tilling. There's a whole lot of things you can do with this.
We need Standard Organization of Nigeria to come and partner with we fabricators so that we can standardize our agric machines being fabricated in Nigeria. We can have our own Nigerian standard and key that into the international standard.
Innovations are there all the time, and it takes this type of platform for people to come round and see the various work that has been done in science and technology and the innovations that are available in Nigeria to actually catapult the country to an industrialized nation.
The people of Southern Borno have urged the Senate to reconsider the suspension of Senator Mohammed Ali Ndume with a view to reinstating him. It was during a peaceful protest at the National Assembly by a group under the auspices of the Southern Borno Global Initiative. The group was received by the representatives of the Senate. Incidentally, the House of Representatives put the issue of enforcement of credit grant to small and medium-scale enterprise by commercial banks under close examination at Tuesday's plenary. The motion moved by Representative Abubakar Amude Kanike urged the Central Bank of Nigeria to strengthen its enforcement measures compliance.
Finance. How does this dream and this noble initiative comes to fruition? So we need a situation where we have to revert policies of the CBN like it was in the past. The CBN designated, and they had a policy that said the money banks and merchant banks must give, at first they said a minimum of 10% of their loan portfolio must be dedicated to activating small and medium scale companies. At some point in time in 1992, it went as high as 16 and subsequently 20%. At this time, we had about 27.2% of the aggregate loan portfolio of Nigerian banks driving the small and medium scale companies. But right now, it has dropped to a dismal less than 1%.
And the federal government is working towards putting in place necessary facilities that would address the numerous challenges hindering smooth services of the country's embassies abroad. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo made this known at the close of an induction program for ambassadors designate in Abuja. While urging the ambassador designates to be good representatives of the country, Vice President Osinbajo stressed the need for transparency in their dealings with their host countries, reminding them of the stand of the president on the fight against corruption.
Deal with Nigerian embassies. The complaints are usually the same, that they were not served well, that they were not given the kind of service that they expected. And some would say that they just were treated very shabbily, or that even the facilities were not there. I think that all of these complaints have come to the president's attention, and there is a great deal of work that I hope will be done between now and when you have to resume. But more importantly, that we also recognize that everyone who comes to the embassies, and even Nigerians in particular, persons who need to be served with respect, and they need to be treated with dignity.
Still on the ambassadors designate, with over $22 billion on food imports of rice, wheat, fruit juice, and even toothpicks, it becomes obvious that Nigeria's economic recovery efforts hinges on agriculture and solid minerals development. This was a meeting point of some of the lectures delivered by Ministers of Agriculture, Chief Audogbe and Kayode Fayemi of Solid Minerals Development at the induction course for ambassadors designate in Abuja.
Have is good land and new policies which support agricultural growth.
Today, the same mining contributes barely 0.3% to the gross domestic product.
The aim is to guarantee security through the use of economic coercion, diplomacy, political power, and the projection of power.
You will be doing the greatest service to Nigerians if you key into our determination to rid this nation of corruption.
Security is a very and absolutely essential thing for the advancement of any society.
The embassy should come up with the figures of Nigerians in your various countries, and then we collate everything together.
And that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Rhodan Kingsley after this break. Good morning.
If you hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter, that might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words: run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Before the renovation of the school was so bad that when rain was falling, especially this my office, 2 drums of water is being removed every morning before we began school. On the 8th of December 2015, when our governor came to renovate the school, as if it was in a dream.
Those who their parents cannot pay for school fees is now enjoying with us with the free education.
The governor have changed our school to a better school.
This is the new Imo State, where education is free. The Imo Rescue Mission. Imo must be better.
Savlon leaves you free to live more and do more. And it's formulated by Johnson & Johnson to kill over 99.9% of germs on skin.
All right, welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the NTA. Now, talking business, plans are on the way by the federal government to create a formal interface between job seekers and employers. And to get more details on that, we'll join our business news correspondent, Joy Uzo.
Hello, thanks for joining us on Business News. The federal government, through the National Directorate of Employment, NDE, is to commence online registration of unemployed persons in the country today. Information from the Office of the Deputy Director of Information and Public Relations of the NDE reveals that the registration is designed to capture the relevant details of all unemployed persons and to also serve as a job exchange portal between job seekers and employers. Meanwhile, the Acting Director General of the NDE, Kunle Obanyo, in a chat with NTA Business News, said it is important to get a database of all unemployed Nigerians in order to identify their specific needs and categorize those needs.
To train, provide skills for people that are unemployed or that want the skills. You may be employed and want something else. You may be getting retrained, or you may be underemployed. So usually we have this training that's all ongoing in different areas. It could be in agriculture, it could be in mining, it could be vocational skills, and so on, that's available, so that they can now have skills that will make them employers of labor.
The NDE boss also emphasized that the exercise is an important tool for economic planning.
It's all about getting them registered and knowing exactly what they need. Some of them need training right now. They don't even have marketable skills. So we start from there because all that information will collect online. As a matter of fact, they'll be capable of taking psychometric testing that will indicate what kind of skill set they should be pursuing in terms of training. So it is holistic. Some people will get jobs from it. Some people will get trained and then be employers of labor.
He, however, warns that no payment is required in the registration process, as the exercise is basically to be conducted online, which will be extended to the ward levels afterwards. This is to ensure that those without access to the internet are equally captured. He affirmed the move is not to capture more people into the 5,000 naira stipend paid by the federal government to unemployed persons. And now a quick look at the capital market. The equities market closed on a negative note as the NSE All-Share Index depreciated by 0.03% to close at 25,266.15 basis points. Up ahead is a graphic summary of all the closing figures. That's Business News. I am Joy Uzo.
Thank you very much, Joy Uzo, for the Business News. Next for us now, we'll take a look at the headlines on the front pages of some today's newspapers. As usual, Bayo Atoyebe, the Good Morning Nigeria Newspaper Reviewer, is right here with us for today's edition of the Newspaper Review. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Kingsley. Good morning, Rhoda.
Good morning,
Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, let's begin our review by taking a look at the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. Daily Trust newspaper has as its lead story, a matter concerning the outbreak of meningitis or the meningitis epidemic. Meningitis, punishment from God, Governor Yari says. With a rider, 215 die in Zamfara as toll reaches 336. Governor Yari is governor of Zamfara State. Now, immediately below the nameplate of the Daily Trust newspaper, governors seek approval for 1.3 trillion naira Chinese loan. That story can be found in greater detail on page 3. And at the foot of the front page of the Daily Trust, just below the photograph of General Yakubu Gowon, former head of state, and incumbent President Muhammadu Buhari, we have 3 other headlines. Internally displaced man defies 2 sisters. That's on page 4. And what senators discussed with APC chairman Oyegun, that's on page 3. And 7.2 trillion naira held by NNPC can end recession. That's attributed to NTA, and that's on page 13 in greater detail.
All right, now let's move over to the leadership. On the leadership, you have its a lead story. Recession, hope rises as federal government launches recovery plan. Recession, hope rises as federal government launches recovery plan. With a rider, experts seek legislative backing and sustainability. $21 billion unremitted funds can revamp the economy, says NTA. And just beside the picture story, executive legislature rift, APC calls for ceasefire. And now let's go below the picture story. A couple of headlines here at the foot of the paper. UK to reveal Nigerian property owners. That story is on page 10. And finally, on page 4, you can read up, no cause for alarm over Paris refund probe, says governors. All right, Bayo, let's get your views on this one.
Let's start with the meeting of the caucus of the National Working Committee with the caucus of the All Progressive Congress in the Senate. The Senate leader, Ahmed Lawan, described it as a historic move, while the party chairman, Chief Odige Oyegu, has commended the reconstruction and consultations as a means of putting the party back together. He has also decreed a ceasefire. Meanwhile, many papers are reporting some of the issues raised behind the scene. The National Working Committee was allegedly aloof while the crisis was brewing. The political appointees of the president, they say, are disrespectful of the Senate, and therefore they are using the media against the Senate. They also made a demand, and one of the demands is that those loyal to Dr. Saraki demand that a withdrawal of the court case at the Code of Conduct Tribunal, describing it as purely political. The Senate, the papers are speculating, may resume confirmation of resident electoral commissioner as a result of the intervention. Meanwhile, there were demonstrations at the gate of the National Assembly, ostensibly by supporters of Senator Ali Ndume from Borno, as well as some members of the internally displaced persons. And a newspaper, the Daily Trust, is strongly insistent on this, so much so that it wrote an editorial. And in the editorial, it raised reasons why Senator Ali Ndume should be reinstated. He said the Senate overreached itself its bounds by suspending the Senate. They cited the case, which is very ironical, of Dino Melaye versus the House of Representatives, when, as he there was, when he was suspended. He said the Federal High Court declared that a legislator could not be suspended for more than 14 days. The Constitution, they say, vests the power to impose sanctions and punishment only in the judiciary by Section 6, Sub 6, Sub A, and Sub B. And therefore, the provision of the Senate rules that imposes punishment is ultra-virus. They have also pointed out that Senator Ndume only pointed out what was going on the social media for Senate to redeem its integrity. So those are the fallouts from that.
All right, let's take a look at the Authority newspaper. The Authority newspaper, above its name flag, has the following headlines. Governor Wike to revive School of Public Health Nursing. That's on page 4 in detail. And also what Bayo just discussed now. National Assembly Executive Rift, that's the kicker. Saraki talks tough at meeting with APC. And IPOP and others rally, demand Kanu's release within 21 days. The story is in greater detail on page 4. Lead story has a kicker. Ajakuta steel sale. EFCC urged to produce report on global infrastructure. And the second lead story is also on Governor Yari of Zamfara. The headline is, meningitis is God's punishment for fornication. Governor Yari. The story jumps to page 2.
All right, now the Nigerian pilots just below the nameplate, central bank to sell dollars to fuel importers, airlines. That's on page 5. Central Bank of Nigeria to sell dollars to fuel importers, airlines. And beside that amnesty program, Rep wants federal government to release 15 billion naira captured in the 2016 budget. That's on page 5. And the lead story on the Nigerian pilot this morning, Germany to deport 12,000 Nigerians. Germany to deport 12,000 Nigerians with a rider as 128 perish at sea. Now let's go below the picture story. And the picture story there is that of President Muhammadu Buhari yesterday with General Yakubu Gowon during a meeting at the State House. Below that, NATI says NNPC failed to remit 7.2 trillion naira with a rider. Amount can easily jumpstart Nigerian economy. Let's take a look at some of the headlines in the foot of the paper now. This one says meningitis Senate tasks federal government to prevent outbreak in prisons and IDP camps. Buhari unveils economic and recovery plan today. Those are some of the stories at the foot of the paper there. All right, Bayo.
Yes, there are concerns about Nigerians that have been deported from abroad. 40 arrived from Italy yesterday. 39 of them were for immigration offenses. One of them was for drug-related offense, and he's to be handed over to the police for continuous prosecution. 23 others were deported from United Kingdom just only 4 days ago. This is about the 6th time Nigerians have been deported from countries around the world. You recall there were deportations from Libya on 2 or 3 occasions, from Mali and from South Africa. Meanwhile, the Special Assistant to the President on Foreign Affairs and Diaspora, Abike Dabiri, has alerted that about 12,000 Nigerians who are seeking political asylum in Germany stand the risk of also being deported. He also pointed out that about 576 persons who died while trying to cross the Mediterranean Sea to Europe. There were 128 Nigerians who unfortunately got killed. Now the story about meningitis. Why the Nigeria Center for Disease Control is looking for scientific means to tackle the type C meningitis bacteria that is wreaking havoc among some of our states, Governor Abdulaziz Yari of Zamfara State has attributed the outbreak of meningitis to punishment from God. He says the rampantness of fornication might have caused God to inflict the community with disease. He says what we used to know as far as meningitis was concerned was type A, but type A vaccination was used and the people were vaccinated. However, because people refused to stop their nefarious activities, now God have decided to send type C virus. Therefore, to solve the problem, people should resort to prayers and revert from their sinful ways.
All right, bye.
Let's take a look at the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Let's see whether there are other stories there that we have not read from the other publications. The Guardian newspaper is next for us now. We have just a story. We have the headline, and I can't immediately see that from my monitor, but you have the headline of the Guardian on the dollar glut. It says, dollar glut hits market, manufacturers and telecoms operators disagree. And of course, you have the other headlines pertaining to business and others. Yeah.
All right, so that's the most we can take this morning on the newspaper review. Bio, it's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Hope to see you again tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow will be another day. Thank you.
All right, you're still watching Good Morning Nigeria. Time now for us to take a break, and when we return, our item for discussion this morning, Nigerian Innovators. We'll be back in just a moment.
Change is here and it's going to stay. Change begins with you. Oh yeah, make we go. Go to so let the change begin from within. Look at you, oh get roller. Change begins with you and me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me.
From the south-south to the northeast, southeast to the northwest, southwest to the north-central, the Future Assured project and its components Get Involved is restoring hope to millions of Nigerian women and children.
We are actually doing a lot under Future Assured, the program of Her Excellency Mrs. Aisha Muhammadu Buhari, and I believe what we are doing so far is impacting positively on the lives of women and children in Nigeria, particularly those in the internally displaced camps across the nation.
Get Involved. Support the Future Assured initiative. Email programs@futureassured.org.ng. Future Assured, promoting and protecting the lives of Nigerian women and children.
Okay, sir. You may now go in for your interview.
Thank you. Ah, my shoe. And to think I just bought this very expensive foreign shoe 2 months ago.
So sorry about your shoes. This is why I advise my friends to always patronize made in Nigeria products. See this shoe. It's made in Nigeria and I've had it for 2 years and it's still as good as the day I bought it.
Made in Nigeria products are good quality, and stringent government regulations and certification now mean the goods made in Nigeria meet international standards. Make the patriotic choice today. Buy right. Buy Made in Nigeria.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
Cadbury Bournvita now comes in an attractive new 500-gram refill pack. Simply open and reseal after use to retain the chocolatey and creamy taste. Cadbury Bournvita. Prepare to win.
All right, welcome back. If you've just joined us, we're live on the NTA and it's Good Morning Nigeria. Our item for discussion this morning, we're looking at the Nigerian Innovators, and we're latching on the 2017 Science and Expo, that's Innovation Expo that is going on right now here in the nation's capital, Abuja. But before we take on our guest this morning, we'd like to take a look at this background report put together by Oyeyemi Ajayi. Of course, that will set the tone for our discussion this morning.
The Technology and Exhibition Expo is a yearly activity that provides opportunity and platform for the creative minds. The 2017 Expo is not in any way different, as the young, old individuals and institutions exhibited their creative works. An unmanned aerial vehicle, also known as Golma, meaning spy, was exhibited by the Nigerian Air Force. Golma is an engine created by the Nigerian Air Force to help in the fight against terrorism by providing surveillance in any grey area deployed to. Its mode of flight and landing is exactly like a typical fighter jet with a surveillance camera underneath. As part of efforts in the fight against terrorism and other social vices in the country, different citadels of learning have come up with some solutions.
Intelligent covered shoe. You can record things that is happening in that area on notice. As you can see here, it's purposely for better explanation. It's purposely open for better explanation. This is where the information is in the shoe. There is a push button by the side here of the shoe. This is the push button. This is the push button. You just press the push button and then you start recording. And the memory, it has up to 64 gigabytes. This is an anti-kidnapping bed tracking device. This device is made for the purpose of maybe you are being kidnapped for a ransom or by certain people, and then you find yourself in a situation where you don't know what to do at that period, and because using this kind of device can save your life and make a quick response for your rescue. Or it has a push button, we call it a panic button, where you can just press and then immediately it send an alert and link you up to the satellite and send an information SMS to the designated office. And at that particular time, they will know wherever you are or where you are, both you and the people that kidnap you, they'll be able to rescue you.
A bulletproof vest and the mini milling machine were invented by the Nnamdi Azikiwe University. As the Nigerian government looks for ways of diversifying the economy, some of these products might just be the way to go, especially in the area of agriculture.
There are a lot of uniqueness with these mannequins which we have produced here. If you look at it now, we had this idea of waste to wealth in mind. So we used sawdust, which is just waste, and that reduced the price. We also added locally sourced kaolin, which also added to the lustre and the finishing. Even the paint we use, everything, most of the things, apart from the resin, we are gotten locally. So it's about 80% locally sourced material.
60-year-old engineer Nkwo Okachukwu is the inventor of this locally made limousine. The piece of work that took Engineer Chooks just 3 months to create has features that are prominent in a foreign limousine.
Yeah, it's been about 15 years or thereabout now. So in the process, we started production of limousines. We are also into the production of smaller cars, like that is the mini cars, taking in 4 passengers, the driver and 3 people. Also, the tricycle is not out of place. So we've been in the business for quite some time.
Other innovations were also displayed. They include an electronic voting machine, a furniture-made vehicle controlled by the engine of a motorcycle, an electrically controlled window blind, among others. With the existence of inventors and creative minds in the country, most of the challenges in the country might just be a thing of the past, as there seem to be solutions to some of them. The beauty about all these works of ingenuity is that 80% of the materials used are locally sourced.
All right, thank you very much there, Oyemi Ajayi, for that background report. Now we have guests with us here in the studios to further the conversation on innovation. Now we have Professor Frank Ogbo. Professor Ogbo is Director of Research, Innovation, as well as University Industry Relations at Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Awka. Professor Ogbo, a pleasure to have you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigeria.
Also joining us this morning is Dr. Hope Orowode. He's a senior lecturer at Covenant University in Ogun State. Dr. Orowode, a pleasure that you are with us this morning.
Thank you very much, and good morning, Nigerians.
Okay.
And also we have joining us on this discussion group captain, Dr. Osichinaka Ubadike. He's the Director of Aerospace Research at the Nigerian Air Force Research and Development Center, Kaduna. He holds a PhD in Aerospace Engineering from Cranfield University, United Kingdom. Group Captain, it's good to have you join us on Good Morning Nigeria today.
Thank you very much, and good morning, Nigerians.
All right, well, let's begin, Rhoda, by asking our guests. I mean, you listen to the background reports, and you also participants at the ongoing exhibition, that's the expo. Exactly what do you have, Professor Ogbo, beginning with you?
Okay, we have a number of items ranging from engineering to agricultural inputs. The reviewer talked about our bulletproof vest, which is a vest that is made from the stem of the kenaf plant, a local plant called Okam. A good percentage of the fiber that is used in the production was sourced from that plant. Of course, there are inputs from other places. This is a material that is completely imported, and if we are able to develop and produce this locally, of course, that would contribute quite significantly to national development. Okay. Yeah. The other engineering product is an integrated feed miller and mixer. We have all sorts of animal stock, animal products, poultry, fish, all sorts of things. They all use feed of one type or another. And again, some of this feed is imported, particularly the ones for fish. So we are doing an integrated project where we have a machine that can mill various components of this feed, the protein component, the carbohydrates, the vitamins, and then also mixes and then puts it in a form in which it is very ready to be given to the animal. So on the other side, on the agric side, we have a fish meal which has substituted insect protein for fish meal. Fish meal is a very expensive component of, that is the protein that is used to supplement this feed. It's an expensive one, and fishes take a long time to grow, but insects can be grown in a very short period of time. So we have developed techniques to grow the larvae of some insects and then use those larvae to substitute the protein component of this fish meal, and it's quite a very useful product. There are other ones which we shall talk about as we proceed.
Mostly that's quite very impressive there, but thank you very much. Let's get to Group Captain Ubadike. Of course, the Nigerian Air Force is also showcasing some of its innovations at the expo. What are you showcasing?
Thank you very much. The Nigerian Air Force is showcasing a lot of research projects. I'll mention some of them here and then we'll discuss the others as we go along. We have the unmanned aerial vehicle, which we could name Gulma. And Gulma in Hausa parlance means gossip. So wherever the air vehicle is flying, whatever it sees, it reports it down to the ground station. We also have a project for the C-130 aircraft, which is our big transport aircraft for tire removal. The tire of the C-130 weighs about 600 kilograms, and to remove it is quite a work. It takes about 4 hours to remove one tire. And the research personnel came up with a design to be able to remove the tire and reduce that removal time from about 4 hours to about 30 minutes. We also have a bomb loading trolley for our MI helicopters to load bomb on the aircraft. Whenever the helicopter comes back for servicing so that it can go back to mission area, it takes them about 3 hours using forklift to load the bomb. And the innovation that they came up with have reduced that time from about 4 hours to 20 minutes. We're going to talk about the details of this project as we go along. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Hope, what is it that you connected with at the ongoing expo?
Yeah, in Covenant University, Covenant University is a vision-driven university, and presently we are working on becoming one of the top 10 universities in the world by the year 2020. And the Chancellor of the university, Dr. David Oyedepo, has made it very, very clear that research, innovation, and discovery is the way to go. And he has built a very big structure which houses our research clusters. And from there, he made it clear also to us that...
Exactly what do you have from those clusters now?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I want to talk about now. Now, he made us to understand that we should concentrate in giving solution to our local problems, and that whatever has been, that is global today actually started as a local thing. And we focus mainly on 4 areas in this expo. 1, on transportation. 2, on agro-feeds. 3, on security. Then 4, on energy. Under these categories, we talk about them as a program.
Talk
about them now. Okay. So now, talking about the security, as we have seen in the prologue, we have devices that could record information unnoticed to the person you are discussing with. We have it in the form of a chair. We have it in the form of belts. We have it in tracking issues with kidnapping, as well as people who rob in the bank. And with real time, we could link them up with the security agencies, and we'll be able to track them wherever they are real time. Then on the aspect of agriculture, there is a special plant that, just like a normal shrub for shade that is planted within the canal land, and our researchers have been able to discover that that seed could do more than just being a shrub for shading. And they found out that they could extract oil from it, and also different feeds for different kind of animals, ranging from birds to goats to cow, and even for humans to consume, even fish feeds too. Then on the aspect of automobile, we are going green, so we've been able to develop green vehicles for commuters. and that has helped us also in being able to reduce carbon emissions and pollution in the environment. Then in the area of energy, we have two categories. One, we look at conservation of energy, and we develop some special bags which we call the Covenant University Explorer bags. These bags has been designed with a technology to retain cold or retain hot, and that has helped us in looking at the cold chain and the hot chain. We could use the bag to cook. We could use them also for vaccine transportation, for blood transportation, and it's able to take care of the potency and keep them within the required temperature. Then also on the aspect of the other aspect of energy, we're also looking at the application of solar to solve local problems, especially in the areas of basic lighting, phone charging, small-scale businesses, and the likes. And what we are working on those areas, we try to reduce the cost so that it can be affordable, it can be available for every individual to be able to use. So these are some of the products that we are here to showcase in this exhibition, sir.
Okay, thank you. Professor Ogbo, let's return to you. I mean, there are complaints sometimes about the purpose of research, particularly in our tertiary institutions, that in a number of cases, research just goes on for, the essence of research. In other words, research for research's sake. What, in your opinion, is the motivation? What local challenges, what local problems have we been able to isolate to say these are problems, and then we're going to innovate to tackle those problems rather than relying on responses or answers from abroad?
Yes, the purpose of research really is to solve local problems, but it takes two to tango. The blame is not all for the university. The government and the society at large also share in this blame. There is a wide gulf between the researcher and the university, the industry, and perhaps government. And I think that is part of what this fair is trying to achieve, to bring together the industry and the academia so that there could be an exchange of these ideas. The industry should know what is happening in the university, and then the university researcher should also know what the problem is in the industry. So there has been a divide, but many universities are trying to bridge that now. In my university, that is why our Vice Chancellor has set up, Professor Ahaneku, has set up this directorate. If you look at the name, it is Research, Innovation, and University-Industry Relations. So we're going out of our way to reach out to the industry, talk with the industry, learn what these problems are, and then bring them back to the university and now do research to solve these problems. So it is still in the developmental stage all over this country. But I do believe that with this kind of effort that the Ministry of Science and Technology is making, in a short while, we'll probably get there, and universities will be able to address problems coming from our society and industry.
How old is the directorate at Namdi?
This directorate is about, say, as old as this new Vice Chancellor, about 3 years. So,
well, I mean, assuming you are the pioneer director of the directorate,
yes.
What have you found in terms of the existing relationship between innovators and industry? What is the missing link? How do you explain what accounts for that?
Yes, the missing link is, as you said in your introduction, researchers in the university do research for the purpose of research. The industry is looking the other way. They run abroad for little problems. Of course, the big industries in this country have partners abroad, and almost all their research is done abroad. I think that is even what government can also address. They must be made, even if it's corporate social responsibility, to try to solve some of their problems within here. Now, in the time that we have operated, we have made an extraordinary effort. We have reached out to several chambers of commerce around us. We have reached out to so many industries, I don't want to start naming them. And we are making some headway. We also have very close cooperation with NOTAP, the National Office for Technology Acquisition and Promotion, and they are helping us to do the preliminary things, get patents to protect this intellectual property, and then source for possible investors. So, like I said, it is not something that will happen in 6 months or 1 year, but we are working hard towards it, and we believe that in the next 1 or 2 years, we shall take a product from the lab into the industry and society.
All right, thank you very much, Prof. Let's get to Group Captain Obadike. Of course, we know that most of your innovations are, of course, security related, and are we really latching on it, especially knowing that it's locally produced? Is the military really latching on what you are producing, looking at the fact that we're dealing with insecurity right now? Or we're still importing some of these things that you're producing?
I can say the military is already making use of what we have produced. I mentioned the bomb loading trolley. It's operational in the Northeast as we speak. They use it to load the Mi-35 helicopters. We're talking of the tire removal equipment. We also use it in our maintenance unit to remove the tires of the C-130. But beyond that, I want to mention a little bit, probably others could learn from what the Air Force have done in terms of how the research evolved and how it's being used. The current leadership of the Nigerian Air Force under Air Marshal S.D. Abubakar came up with a policy, a philosophy of research and development, and what's called the triangle of research, where you have the Air Force on one side, the academic on the other side, and the industry. At the moment, we have MOU with 15 universities and 6 research agencies. As we are speaking now, we have a university working at Kano to repair our equipment. We have a university that developed test benches for our Alpha Jet aircraft. We have an industry, a company in Nigeria, that solved the problem of our brake systems on the Alpha Jet. So the Air Force have gone a little bit ahead to harness local resources available in Nigeria to be able to make its aircraft operational. Another problem we have in the Air Force is the issue of foreign exchange. We don't have the luxury of foreign exchange now. So looking inwards have enabled us to continue flying our aircrafts without spending much. The third problem is the issue of time. When you send this equipment abroad, some of them spend 6 months before you get them back. But if we do them in Nigeria, within 1 or 2 weeks, we are back into operation. So most of the research and development we are doing now, we are using it in our day-to-day flying operations and within the Air Force.
All right, Group Captain, you are exhibiting, if I say you, there's the Nigerian Air Force. And incidentally, we've had the benefit of the presence of the Chief of Air Staff on this program, where, last year, he also talked about the innovation that was being undertaken by the Nigerian Air Force in collaboration with the other 2 legs you mentioned, industry, of course, and the academia. But you, that's the Air Force is exhibiting at the ongoing expo. What feedback are you getting from those, who have visited your stand?
I think so far the feedback has been very positive. In fact, the stand of the Air Force was, throughout yesterday, we didn't have any break at all because people were just trooping in to see what the Air Force is doing. Especially, we have some people that were doubting whether the unmanned aerial vehicles were actually produced in Nigeria. However, when they come to the stand and see the video of the production process and the flight video, most of them, they believe that those things could be done in Nigeria and were indeed done by the Nigerian Air Force. So the reaction has been very positive. We also have a lot of companies approaching us to ask, how do we collaborate with you in this area? So they can take advantage of what we have done so far and maybe add to what we are doing. So we are open to that, and we have seen a lot of positive response at our stand.
Is this, I'm sorry, is it a flash in the pan? Because sometimes you see in Nigeria, we make a lot of forward motion, and then almost subsequently, there's a rollback. Is this sustainable, what the Air Force is doing?
very, very sustainable. In the Air Force, we have a philosophy of self-reliance. And to achieve that philosophy, the Air Force came up with Nigerian Air Force Research and Development Policy that broke research into short-term, medium-term, and long-term. The short-term is over a period of 3 years, the medium-term is over a period of 6 years, and our long-term is over a period of 15 years. And a lot of research projects have been listed in these documents, and the Air Force is following it religiously, implementing all the research divided under short-term, medium-term, and long-term. And I want to say something. One of the problems we have in Nigeria is the issue of continuity. When political leadership changed, some of these ideas die with it. In the Air Force, we have overcome that. With this research and development policy, when one administration comes in, they continue from where their predecessor stopped. For instance, we have a hydraulic diaphragm that started in 2010. We have about 8 attempts at getting this diaphragm right. The current Chief of Air Staff started that project as a commander in Port Harcourt in 2010. In 2017, we have those products flying in a lot of our helicopters. And the Air Force is also exploring the opportunity or the possibility of selling those products to allied countries like Ghana and other countries operating the same aircraft. So the policy of sustenance is already there in the Air Force, and we've gone ahead to produce a document which is a legal entity that is guiding our research and development.
All right, Group Captain Ubadike, thank you very much. We'll come back to you later on in the course of this conversation. Let's bring in Dr. Hope Orowode again into the conversation. We're talking about the purpose of innovation. You, of course, you have indicated the 4 principal areas that Covenant University is focused on, and we are taking a general look at the Nigerian society. When you examine, for instance, those factors that often tend to lower the human development indices of Nigeria, you can find them, for instance, in water supply, in sanitation, the quality of air we breathe, and so on and so forth. Now, from your perspective, maybe say at the university level, say at the academia, what exactly do we need to do? How do we get more Nigerians to have access to potable water? I believe, Rhoda, I'm not an engineer, but I don't know whether we produce submersible pumps in this country. So if everybody is sinking a borehole, it means that you have to buy that submersible pump from elsewhere. So how do you get that locally produced? What kind of innovation do you need? How do you improve sanitation? How do you improve those things that now, at present, as it were, tend to draw us back on the development index?
Yeah, in Covenant University, as I earlier on said, we are looking at addressing basic human problems. And we are not looking too far because the problems are already with us. They are already in our environment. Just as you mentioned, the issue of sanitation, the issue of transportation, and most especially the issue of energy. And energy is the key thing because any country that is poor in energy, of course, is poor in everything. And we are now looking inwards to see what we can do. Most of these things, just as you mentioned, the submersible pump and various of these things, they are so expensive, and bringing them in is really an issue. So we are really working in our research clusters to be able to develop local substitute for this. And in doing that, the university is supporting the clusters in various ways to ensure that that is done. First, by identifying persons or capacities who are good in special areas, putting them together into clusters, and making sure that they are given special tasks to be able to bring out special products that will address these areas. Now, I want to talk more on that energy aspect. Now, what we observe in the transportation of vaccines, for instance, is the potency, and it's really a serious challenge. And for that, the university have been able to come out with a product, just like a bag, that you can use in transporting vaccine from one point to the other. And it's made locally with local materials that you don't need to import anything, and 100% locally. And not only that, the bag could be used for blood transportation from the blood bank to where it's going to be used, we could use the bag also to do the same. Also, we've been able to also use the bag to for cooking. Conventionally, you need to cook for a very long period of time. So we now develop a bag that with it, you just put your food on the fire, heat it to the boiling point, you transfer it to the bag, and the bag does the completing part of the cooking for you. So you're no longer afraid of the food getting burnt or getting giving it a full attention as it were. So you need now to use this bag for cooking. And with that, we have been able to extend the lifespan of a conventional family who may require maybe 12.5 kg cylinder to cook for a month. We have been able to extend that up to 3 months. And if you aggregate that together, you know that's a serious saving in the terms of what we are requiring. Now, we have also looked at the typical village man, typical village woman. What does it require? It requires just a point of light. And what do they do? They will go and buy kerosene, put into a lantern, and that's what they use for lighting. So Covenant University has come up with a product which we call the Solar Delight. With that, they can light up their houses and also charge their phones. And that has been very, very wonderful. The products are there at the exhibition ground, and people have been appreciated.
Dr. Orowode, it's interesting that you mentioned solar. Yeah. Now, if you observe, over the past 20 years or more, that Nigeria has been flirting with solar lighting, particularly beginning with solar lights and then solar-powered hand pumps for water supply in remote and hard-to-reach locations. One of the two challenges they face is cells and then the batteries. Now, sorry, I'm not saying you now because other researchers could be interested in this. What is the challenge in focusing on those key drawbacks of the solar power system, the cells and then the batteries, to ensure longer life or get them produced in Nigeria rather than getting them imported from elsewhere, China or Denmark, places where they have very little sunlight versus what we have here? I'm sure you are experiencing the heat in Abuja since you've been around.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
In part of the products we brought, we were already working on even on the chain of the components that are used in the solar system. And we have already developed a solar panel. It's right there on the stand. We've developed a solar panel already. But for batteries, we have not been able to work on that. And now, in the course of our research, what actually we came up with was that most of the solar systems that people use fail within a period of time. And what we found out was that it is as a result of wrong sizing and also inadequate understanding of what the system is all about. People just put components together and said, I'm going to give you a solar light, and all of a sudden, within 3 months, the person is back crying and saying the thing is not working and is complaining. But we've been able to look at all that, and we have identified the key things that are responsible for the failure of the solar systems generally. And we are working on that. Part of what we are doing also is to reduce the cost, because that is the key issue why people do wrong sizing, because by the time they give you the full-blown cost of what it will require you to power a particular system, you kind of run away. So what we are also doing is that we are trying to look at these components one after the other. We've been able to develop a solar panel locally. We've also been able to develop a solar charge controller. They are in our stand over there. And we're also looking at removing some components that are not actually critical. Take, for instance, the inverter. Why do we need an inverter when most of the loads that we use actually does not require any form of inversion? So we are also working on developing systems that work purely on DC. So you can run your house without inverter, without any form of conversion. So you get it directly from the sun, store it in your batteries, and you use it directly. So that reduces the cost and also increases the efficiency of the solar system. So we're working seriously to ensure that even when we deploy our solar systems, they work efficiently, and at least a minimum of 10 years, you don't have to go back into that. And apart from that too, we're also working on scalability of the solar system, because most times people look at it that I must get for everything, and by that time, the cost will be so much that the person will feel like not being able to bear it. So we try to build it in modular form. So take, for instance, you can address your lighting as in your first phase. build for your lighting, take care of your lighting. Then you can now subsequently maybe look at your electronics, then before you look at your cooling and all those other various aspects. So if you do it modular like that, you'll discover that you'll be able to, within a period of time, transit completely from depending on conventional sources of energy, and you enjoy yourself having a sustainable and efficient and a reliable and always available power for your daily and for your business requirements.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hoporo. We'll get back to you shortly. But then let's get back to Professor Ogbo. One thing that is very common when we look at local innovation is financing is one of the challenges. And I'm sure that, of course, because even though you're sourcing these materials locally, you must have encountered some challenges. Well, what are the challenges you've encountered putting all of these together?
Yes, financing, as you said, is a major challenge. There are a few agencies that are helping universities to do research now, like the TED Fund, getting some funds from them. University is also providing some funds. There are things like Senate Research Grant and so on. But it remains inadequate. And I think it's something that has to be dealt with at the policy level. Government has to make a decision that it is time to bring through our local innovations to become relevant to our national development. In that case, there should be a deliberate policy to put in a little more finance into the universities for the purpose of research. And like I mentioned a little bit earlier, I think that many of our multinational companies are also not doing things to help local research and local development. I think that, for example, during this fair, I have seen entrepreneurs, I have seen some local industries, but some of the bigger ones who have a lot of money, I'm not sure that they are here. I think that government can persuade some of these people to, I'm not saying that there is no help coming from them. I know there are some people that are funding research in the universities.
Sorry, Professor Egbo, I mean, you're touching on a very, sorry, Professor Egbo, you're touching on a very significant point.
Yes.
Is it a question of government seeking to persuade these entities? Because ultimately, this is part of what leads to our forex leakages.
Yes.
I mean, because the multinationals, you know, whether in the beverage, food and beverage industry, or whatever is their machinery or the additives or the ingredients that they need, the alibi they will need to plead is that, oh, this is standardized globally and it has to come from the metropole, as their parent entities. And in the meantime, you know, you have all kinds of forex outgoing. So is it a question of persuasion? Couldn't we have it? I mean, of course, there's already in the oil and gas industry, the Nigerian Content Development Act. So what else do you think is required? How do you get industry on their own other than persuasion to say, look, you know, get some of your research done here, get some of your innovation done here, otherwise you face the penalty.
Yeah, precisely what I'm talking about. I don't want to, I'm not in a position to make policies for government. I'm using language that is fair. So they would know how to do it, persuasion, coercion, whatever. But I think that it is important, just like you have pointed out. Industry can bring in some money deliberately, not just for research, but for the transition period between research and deployment, transfer of the technology to the society. That is the very difficult area, because a lot of the things you see during the exhibitions are actually things that are fresh from the lab. And to get them to become functional and useful in industry requires much more money, much more time that has been invested doing the work in the lab. So if government is deliberate about such a policy, even if it means giving them the responsibility, you company so and so, develop this product within this period of time, I think that that will help. That will bring in some of the assistance that is needed by universities and research institutes to bring research from the lab into functionality and deployment in the society. That's what I'm talking about.
But then do you have challenges sourcing some of your materials locally?
Local materials are local. There's no extraordinary challenge in sourcing them. But oftentimes, excuse me, you cannot do everything with local raw materials.
Okay.
Our mannequins, which you have shown here, for example, all the raw materials, sawdust, kaolin, are local, up to maybe 80%. But the 20% that is resin has to be imported. And the cost of that 20% can shift the balance of the entire cost of the project, and then again becomes very expensive. So there is no challenge in sourcing local raw materials. The challenge is the small input that you need from things that you have to bring in from outside. There is a real challenge in that one, rather.
Oh, all right, thank you very much. Group Captain Obadike, let's come back to you. From your experience, what are the major challenges that innovation faces in the country? And how can those challenges be surmounted?
From the Air Force perspective, research and development is being funded at the moment from Air Force allocation, which is MEGA. And fund has to come from government or from the private sector. We also require fund. For instance, we started with capacity development, where we trained about 12 PhDs and 75 masters in aerospace design. It requires foreign exchange. Continuing with that philosophy or continuing with that process requires more funding. However, in my own opinion, I think the government should establish something like a research foundation where companies and industries operating in Nigeria should contribute a certain percentage into that foundation, and all research establishments can draw from that funding, just like we have the TED Fund. If we have something like that, the Air Force could benefit from it, and the universities could also benefit from it. Another area that the government could use is to give incentives to industries. If you fund research in certain areas, we give you a tax break in some areas. So that will motivate them to fund most of the research we are having in Nigeria. On the part of Air Force, we've done a lot with the mega resources the Air Force have. Air Force requires more funding to move this research from prototype level to operational products.
Yeah, that's another key point that Professor Obo was talking about, the transition from prototype, to a full product. Now, some persons will argue that if you look at our machine tools industry, there appears to be a lacuna there. Is the machine tools industry primed, for instance, to help graduate prototype into usable machines? And if that is not there, then what do we need to do?
At the moment, we don't have a lot of these heavy machineries, for instance, for the work we are doing in the Air Force. And that made us to partner with some foreign companies in some of the work we are doing. However, I believe that with the intervention that we have from government establishment like TED Fund, those interventions could be channeled directly to providing some of those equipment for our local industries. There are a few of them that have very small machines, but when those ones are encouraged to have bigger machines, we can utilize them. Apart from using the machine, for instance, I will specifically talk on the UAV. The airframe of the Gulma UAV was manufactured completely in Nigeria. We're using hand lay-up method. In the absence of the machine, we resorted to manual labor, which takes a lot of time and a lot of commitment. So at the moment when we don't have the machines, we can continue doing what we have, but the machines will help us to improve this product and make them better.
I'm still with you, Group Captain. Just one point that I would like you to also stress on, considering the targeted research and innovation that the Air Force has undertaken in collaboration with industry and academia. What's your suggestion to some otherwise clever innovators who spend time, trying to reinvent the wheel? I mean, a motor car has long ago been invented. So why come around, coupling together some, parts and pieces, and you say that you have invented a new car, you probably give it some name. What are those things? Because I'm sure that they're talking about mechatronics now, mechanical and electronics. How can innovators be attuned first with developments elsewhere and how to transplant those ideas into solving local problems?
I believe that one thing we can do is to look at how others have developed. Let's look at China and India, for instance. The Chinese have a policy they call dual-use technology, especially for their military. What is out there that has been done? How do we localize it? How do we make use of it our own way? So they pick up a car that is done for civil use and put armor plating on it and becomes a military car. So we can adopt such a policy in Nigeria. We cannot reinvent the wheel. How can we use what is out there? Adopt what we call a system engineering approach. That's also what we are doing in the Air Force, where we pick components from different areas, maybe not meant for military use, put them together to have something that the military can use. You know that it takes a lot of research to develop a component, but you can sidestep some of those research funding and money by utilizing the knowledge that is already out there in the open and using dual-use technology to solve your immediate problem. The objective is problem solving, not reinventing the wheel.
All right, thank you very much, Group Captain Obadike. But then we already have reactions coming in from our viewers. You can tweet at us at NTAGMN. But then let's take some of your tweets now. The very first one is from Dele Jackson Solomon. It says Nigerians need to be more creative and innovative in this period of economic recession as to develop the economy.
All right, this is from Jamil Sadara. Tweets says, we have abundant innovative ideas showcased on NTA Expo, but government support is lacking greatly.
And this one is from Sani Michael Imokoji. He tweets, bandwagon effects and abnormal demands as well as ignorance are some of the factors hampering made in Nigerian goods through creativity.
Jack Solomon again, if we must break the cycle of the myriad of unemployment, we must foster an environment that is conducive to innovation.
Mohammed Jami tweets, it's a lot of issues militating against the innovative ideas. Our craving for foreign goods, lack of political will, and unconducive schooling environment.
And Jack Solomon says our education needs a huge dose of innovation to be injected into training our students to see solutions to problems.
Festus Akimboyewa tweets, Nigeria can outturn other African countries and ascend to technological glory if government has the political will to spend money on science and technology.
All right, those are some of the tweets that we are taking in the meantime. Dr. Orowode, let's get your thoughts again. You know, yes, finance funding can be a major challenge to innovation, but you know, let us assume, as we have heard from you, and as we also see at the Expo, some effort is going on, and some things are coming out of innovative minds in the country. But how then do you upscale the prototype into commercialized products? In your opinion, what is required to be done?
Well, since we have already identified that funding is an issue, definitely we could start from somewhere. And in my opinion, I could suggest that what the government could do here is simply categorization. For instance, from all the products that have been displayed on the Expo, the government can decide, okay, let us take one product per sector and put a team together along that line and follow up that product to commercialization level. You could, just as my other colleagues have said, you can assign it to a maybe, for instance, you have a project in energy, for instance. Why not you look for industries or foreign industries that are operating in Nigeria? Let's say, for instance, Shell, Chevrons, and all the other ones that, okay, just help us follow up this product towards maturity. So by the time we are able to break it down one after the other like that, within a short time, we take them in phases like that, we'll be getting something out. But just leaving all of them lying at the prototype level is not good enough and it's not encouraging. So if we have these products as we come, pick one product and you fly with it, and others also watching what is going on, will begin to bring out better ideas on how these things could be done. And if that is even too large, the government could set up special laboratories, specially for setting, we talk about adequate machine tools. You may not have it all over the country. You could just set up some special machine tool center where any researcher could simply come there to perfect their work. So that will reduce the burden on finance, and that will make it easy for us to fly along with some of these products that have been developed.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Hope Oro, the Senior Lecturer at the Covenant University. It's a pleasure having you joining us this morning. Thank you very much. And also would love to thank Professor Frank Ogbo. He is the Director of Research Innovation, University Industry Relations, Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Awka. Thank you for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
And finally, would love to thank Group Captain Dr. Osi Chinaka Ubadike, Director of Space Research at Nigerian Air Force Research and Development Center, Kaduna. Thank you very much for your insight.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll take a break now, and we'll be back with the same discussion, but then we'll be looking at, of course, an issue they all have raised, and that's the issue of commercializing most of these innovations. We'll be back in just a moment.
People lose their jobs every day. For this,
my friend, where's my change?
And this,
where is the food I say you buy?
And this.
As I told you now, middle of express nowadays, so.
They lose precious opportunities in life simply because they go after small extra stipends.
You know, say now where person they work, that in the chop.
Oh yes, but chop only what is rightfully yours. Or don't you agree?
The line on my line, I like. Commander of the Lion Forces.
Join us for Walk Chop, another hilarious episode of your rib-cracking comedy, Professor John Bull.
Showing at 8:30 p.m. every Tuesday and Friday on NTA Network International and Star Times. Shama! Shosa! 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 Shosa!
Over and out. Brought to you by Glow.
Welcome to the new speed of life.
So what's up, sweetheart? You really look like you're up to something.
I have a secret.
Okay.
I'll be going to Europe next week.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Like you have your visa, your passport, your plane ticket?
No, not that way. Some men are helping us. We pay them, they take us through the desert, and then we cross the sea into Europe.
The desert, the sea. Isn't that the route where many have died?
Yes, it is indeed a very dangerous journey. In 2016 alone, 4,900 people died while crossing the Mediterranean Sea to enter Europe. Many were Nigerians. For the very few who survived the journey, they are forced into prostitution or other crimes just to survive. Eventually, they will be arrested and deported to Nigeria. Don't be a victim. Don't go this way.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
Clorox chewing gum neutralizes bad odor. It doesn't just disguise them, it gives you real minty breath.
All right, welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria on the NTA, and we've been looking at Nigerian innovators. Of course, we've had some guests with us earlier. We looked at the challenges and, of course, the innovations that they are making. But this time, we're being joined by another set of guests, and we're looking at commercializing these innovations. And now I'd like to introduce Azumin Ibrahim. He is Director General, National Office for Technology Acquisition and Promotion, NOTAP. Good morning, and good to have you join us.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay. Dan Azumi Ibrahim, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, we also love to welcome to the program Professor Matawal. He is the Director General of the Nigerian Building and Road Research Institute. Thank you for coming on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
All right, let's begin this way. Almost every year we have expos on science and technology innovations, but most of these research or innovations that have been made, they remain at a prototype level. Commercialization has been a very, very serious issue. Most of these innovations don't leave the prototype level. What can be done? How do we go about commercializing them?
Well, thank you very much. The Science, Technology and Innovation Expo this year is the first integrated effort to bring the individual displays and commercialization efforts of the various constituent research institutes together. And basically, what it attempts to do is to bring all the stakeholders in the industry together, the academia, the R&D agencies, industry and government, through a set of displays and exhibition in the Eagle Square, and also provide the platform where stakeholders discuss and forge a way forward for commercialization. It's definitely true that over the years, so many innovations have remained on the shelf. And it's important for this country, if we are to make it, and if we are to be independent, if we are to generate wealth, if we are to save critical foreign resources, that we do so many things ourselves, like many countries have proven.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Matawale. But then, Dan Azmi Ibrahim, how do we break these jinx? Every year there's a science and expo. In the country, you have people coming with different prototypes. How do we make it commercial that, you know, it solves the problems of of Nigerians?
Yeah, thank you very much. Commercialization of research and development efforts is a problem. And this problem is not only unique to developing countries, it's also a problem in the developed countries. Even in the developed countries, out of 10, 15 prototypes developed, hardly 1 or 2 would go to the commercial level. But if you look at the Nigerian scenario, I would say to some extent some commercialization is taking place. If you go to some of those establishments like Naseni, like Proda, they develop some prototypes. And those prototypes are being bought by Nigerians for one purpose or the other. So that is also commercialization. But what we need in this country is a mass production of those units. But we need an institutional framework. A researcher had done his own bit. He has come out with a prototype. So there must be an institutional framework that could move the product to the next level. So that institutional framework doesn't seem to exist in this country for now, but something is in the pipeline. If you know the National Research and Innovation Council, which had been in the pipeline for a very long period of time, the coming of the Honorable Minister of Science and Technology, Dr. Ogbonna Onu, has now made it to come to reality. It had been inaugurated, and the CNC, President Muhammad Buhari, is chairing this National Innovation Council. Under the National Innovation Council, that's what we call National Research and Innovation Fund. It is that fund that is expected to move those prototypes to the next level. There are other institutional frameworks that are expected to be established in this country, but these are private sector driven. When you look at the government side, that is what the government is doing. But the private sector becomes very reluctant to come and key into the commercialization process. So, like in some countries, we have what we call venture capitalists. These are funds that are really expected to move those products to the next level. I could remember when we were in Iran, and some of the issues like this came up. And this is something we can leverage on what they had done. The venture capitalists will come and meet the researcher who was able to come out with a product, and now say, okay, let's negotiate. We cannot buy you outrightly, but we can now form a company which will have maybe 10 or 5% shares. That is how they commercialized. That is how the private sector come into being. But if you realize what is displayed in this Techno Expo, in this Innovation Expo, you realize there are prototypes. And some of those prototypes, you have already divulged the intellectual property of it. For any person that is coming to invest in this, first of all, he must be sure that this innovation is protected, so that if he pumps in his money, he should be able to recoup. But where you come and display and explain from A to Z all the details of your innovation, somebody very smart can pick it up, and you have no monopoly whatsoever. So what we try to encourage, what you try to inculcate the culture of intellectual property, particularly to the researchers. They undertake research and development and rush to publish and rush to come and display. If you don't protect it, you lose the intellectual property. So that is one aspect. You have to protect it. After protecting it, now either the government National Research and Innovation Fund comes into effect, or the venture capitals or risk fund could assist in the commercialization of research and development efforts at high scale level. But at a very small level, commercialization is taking place. You can see now, I was with the Director General Naseni, who was saying that they have been given a go-ahead to produce 10 units of some of those machineries. That is commercialization. But if you request Naseni to produce 1,000 units, that is where the challenge is. That is where the private sector must have to come in, or the government must have to interfere.
I'm wondering, Dr. Danazumi, I mean, you just touched on the point. The Science or Technology Expo tends to have the flavor of a trade fair. I mean, is this worrisome?
No, I beg to disagree with you. It's not like a trade fair. You see, as my colleague professor said, the essence of that fair is to bring all the relevant stakeholders. The researchers are there, the policy makers are there, the private sectors are there. People see opportunities. So trade fair is like going to buy something, use your money, buy it and pocket it and go to your houses. But this one, the researchers are there. High-level dialogues are taking place. The Manufacturer Association of Nigeria are also there. You understand, the private sector is there. What we expect is to create a synergy between the private sector, the researchers, and of course the government. The policy makers are there. The members of the National Assembly are there. So I'm sure bringing those relevant stakeholders will have a common front. This is the problem we are facing as a nation. How do we move forward? And everybody must key in to see that we develop this country into economic prosperity.
From your vantage position at NOTAP, why has it been challenging, as it were, for the domestic environment, domestic Nigerian industries, local industries, and so on and so forth, to help catalyze innovation through mass production? I mean, there's always a fallback, look, get it imported, apply to your bank or CBN for Forex. It's the easiest thing to do, and then you get swamped by all kinds of goods that you have dumped on the country.
You see, what I would like us to appreciate is those multinationals coming to Nigeria. They are not here as Father Christmas. They are here to make money. So the strategy is for us Nigerians to see how can we get the best out of the relationship. I could remember in one of my, you see, the regulators, we have to do a lot. I know when I was treating a file of one of the multinational companies, I discovered that they are importing calcium carbonate into Nigeria. I had to call them. Don't we have calcium carbonate in Nigeria? They say we do have. I say, what is the problem with Nigerian calcium carbonate? They say Nigerian calcium carbonate has some quartz. Then I say, then we need technology to remove the quartz to upgrade Nigerian calcium carbonate to meet your own demands. They saw it, we put heads together. I'm telling you, within a year, they have started sourcing their calcium carbonate locally. It's for us to sit down as a nation and come out with strategy and find out how we can get the best out of the relationship. We realize also they don't undertake their research and development efforts in this country. I say, why? Some of the questions, some of the answers, they say, well, we don't have enough facilities, you understand? Even though we have some kind of capable hands. But I say, well, then you have a social responsibility. You come into our country, you undertake businesses, you make billions of naira, you have responsibility to improve on this. Government alone cannot do it. I'm telling you, the industry have started keying in because we insist. One typical company is PZ Nigeria Limited. They have now pumped 115 million naira to upgrade some laboratories in 3 establishments in this country. That is the best way to get the best out of the relationship. They are also sponsoring Nigerians who have very intelligent Nigerians who have come out with another program, NOTOP Industry Partnership. Under this NOTOP Industry Partnership, we have 3 important components. The first, to develop the Nigerian capacities, the capacities of Nigerians, so that we'll be able to undertake research and development that could translate into product and services. The second aspect is the infrastructure development, laboratory upgrading, workshops upgrading. And third, and perhaps the most important, is how to inculcate the idea of process technology onto younger generations. Because if you energize the younger generations on certain processes, they may even come out with a better product than what is existing in the market. And the industries are keen in. I'm telling you, if we just put our house together, the regulators put their house together and put our feet firm on the ground, the multinational have no option but to key in.
Dr. excuse me, Dana Zume, in addition to NOTAP, I mean, considering what you just indicated in terms of your relationship, what other regulators would you like to see much more actively, engaging industry to encourage innovation or to seek to commercialize innovation?
Yes, you see, the Raw Material Research and Development Council is one of the agencies that is responsible for development and substituting imported raw materials for local ones. And sometimes when we go to the industry, we go along with them. And their major issue is, where do you source your raw materials? Where we feel Nigeria has comparative advantage, we insist, we give you incentive so that you'll be able to start using the Nigerian local raw materials. Through this process, we'll add value to Nigerian local raw materials. You will employ, the benefits are immense. You develop your local raw materials, you create jobs, you create wealth, and more importantly, you reduce dependency on foreign raw materials. The customs are there. Where we feel maybe we don't give a waiver, you understand, there are raw materials we feel we have comparative advantage. Anybody who is coming to import something that we feel we have, we give a very high tariff to discourage them from importing. Now the recession has given us an excellent opportunity. Quite a number of those multinationals are looking inwards. Instead of them to import, they are now looking how to develop what is locally available. I think the recession has given us. The PZ in particular also now has acquired about 126,000 hectares of land to develop a plantation of palm kernels. So they have already, I think, seeded about 5,600. We are there. We saw it. So in this essence now, they will gradually begin to use what is locally available to reduce importation of local alternatives.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Dan Azmi Ibrahim. Now let's get to Professor Danladi. Yes. The Minister of Science and Technology actually proposed a dedicated fund for science and technology. How feasible is this? And also he actually was proposing a bank for science and technology when he actually assumed the office. What's your take on this?
Well, these are parts of the STI policy institutional framework for getting things commercialized, for getting funding for R&D. And one of the bodies is called the National Council and Innovation Fund, NCIF, which draws resources and disburses this for the funding of R&D, as well as the various infrastructure and collaborative effort for commercialization. Now, basically, this fund is supposed to derive from a contribution. Industries, for example, need to contribute a certain percentage of the fund of their income to support this fund. Government will make available part of the budget for this. But also very important, as the STI policy is being prosecuted, is important that the private sector goes along. One of them, part of the questions Dr. Azumi is attempting to answer, is the fact that a lot of the private sectors, the industries, don't even have a research department.
But how do we get the private sector to fully participate?
I believe this is through the policy framework of government and the National Council, the National Council and Innovation Fund will draw this fund from the private sector. This is going to be a policy issue, and so it's going to be mandatory for every industry and every private sector setup to contribute part of its fund in order to propel R&D forward, and also to encourage interaction so that a lot of the R&D products are also absorbed into industry, and a lot of local content actually comes out of the industry rather than drawing primarily from imported items.
But aside the funds, are there other ways we can boost the financial gaps of this industry?
Well, I think these are the primary sources, contributory sources. Another one is taxation on imported materials in the sector. If you are talking of the construction sector, for example, everything that is imported into the country can be taxed. A very small tax will drive a lot to fund research and development in the country.
All right, thank you. Gentlemen, let's take another set of tweets now. Runke Eleyinju again tweets, after the exhibition, what next? Most times, these products are not found in the market, especially the ones concerning agriculture.
Engineer Abdullahi says, as long as indigenous technology is not cherished and encouraged by Nigerians, developing it is just a waste of resources.
And Bimbola Owojori tweets, the remarks of Group Captain show lack of synergy for innovation among the tri-service. Nobody talked about Proforce in Ogun State with regard to innovation.
And Festus Akimboyo tweets again, Nigeria should have a coherent, innovative policy, and federal government should invest more in technological innovations that can generate social and economic benefits.
And then we have this from Tunde Emmanuel. It says sufficient attention must be paid to compliance with global quality standards for our inventions to be competitive on the global market.
And innovators should not be made to go hungry for cash if we want valuable ideas born in Nigeria to be developed and in Nigeria and not abroad.
Ibrahim Tudu, the federal government technology incubation centers are not featured. Why are they missing from the expo?
Tunde Emmanuel tweets, we need international cooperation at all levels of intellectual property sharing for Nigeria to make progress in globalized world.
And then we have this from Wale Oshineye. The problem facing creative innovation in Nigeria is a lack of will in terms of national policy that would drive and see it to reality.
Juliet Anyaye tweets, we have seen the good works from our inventors. Do they have a database? How can they be contacted?
All right, those are the tweets that we are taking in the meantime. We'd like to thank our last two guests who have been with us for the remainder of the conversation. Dr. Don Azumi Ibrahim, Director General of NOTAP, that's the National Office for Technology Acquisition and Promotion. Dr. Azumi, pleasure having you on the program.
Thank you
with us today. We also would like to thank Professor Danladi Matawa, is the DG of NIBRI. NIBRI, that is the Nigerian Building and Road Research Institute. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
All right, so that does it for our discussion segment on Good Morning Nigeria. Today, we'll move on now to the complementary segment.
All right, let's join our foreign news desk for an update on what's happening in foreign scene as South African President Jacob Zuma under intense pressure to step down. Let's get more details from Oyeyemi Ajayi.
Bishop Excel, De Kumzi.